Hello and welcome to my tutorial on how to use the PV3 Business Manager spreadsheet. If you're new to using Excel, you might not know that this Excel spreadsheet sometimes have macros. My Excel spreadsheet uses macros, so notice it says there's some security warning. You might have this yellow bar that go along the top. You have to click Enable Content. Don't worry, the information, if it's come from me, is safe. If someone, of course, stole my spreadsheet and given it to you, well, that's buyer beware. Okay, this is a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet. It works best in Excel. And because it's a spreadsheet, it also has multiple worksheets. You'll see at the bottom there's a settings worksheet, an income worksheet, an expense worksheet, an income statement sheet for reports, HST, and annual for doing reports. You'll notice at the top here, first I'll go through, there's a setting. First would be the date. I would like to put, we're in 2020 right now, so I would put in January the 1st, 2019, because most of my clients will be, at this point, will be working on their previous year. It's designed for sole proprietors in mind and small little organizations. It's not really designed for corporations, even though technically I guess it could be used for corporation, but I wouldn't recommend it. This is mainly for sole proprietors. And the second box is where you would put in your business name. So let's say it's Joe's Plumbing. And Joe's Plumbing wants to use this spreadsheet for doing their business revenues and expenses. Up at the top here, you have certain income categories. Make sure that you use these and these alone. But you can type over any of these boxes. So if you wanted, let's say Joe had product sales and Joe had service sales. You can type in your different categories, and we'll just leave it at that for now. There's another section here for non-income related income you wish to track. So let's say he got an HST refund at some point. You'd want to put it in here. It's not a taxable income. It's just money that goes into your bank, but it's not taxable. Or let's say it's personal contributions, and you wanted to track his personal contributions to the business. You would put that in here. You wouldn't put it up here because you don't want to get taxed on your personal contributions into the business. So that would be separate. But if you want to track anything other than that, other than sales, you would put them in here. The next section of the settings sheet is your general expense categories. The ones highlighted with blue in the background, these categories right here are the categories you see most often. Oh, my apologies. Are categories you would most, sorry about that, you would see most often in a tax return. So these are the tax return categories that are typically used on a regular basis on tax return. So you kind of leave these alone. Use these categories, these white boxes here first before you start typing over top of any of these boxes. With sole proprietors in mind, a lot of sole proprietors don't own locations. You could type over property taxes or telephone and utilities. These are related to an office that you would rent. And some don't have salaries and wages. That's an area where you would say you could type over if you needed extra space once you start using these up. Be careful with other costs 1 and 2. They are purchases related. Purchases are resale items. They're related to resale items. They're not just other. Try not to use other. Try to type over top and put in a specific category you'd want to type down. Type down here for your other miscellaneous categories that you would put in. So let's say this plumbing business, Joe's Plumbing, he really wanted to track something specific like wrenches. That's a silly idea, but let's say he wants a wrenches expense. I know that's silly, but there's so many different types of categories that you could add. This is where you would add them at the bottom. Next, we have a section for vehicles. It gives you option for 2 different vehicles. Here, let's say he has a Corolla and he has a Ford F-150. You would have your two different vehicles. You want to track them separately because in the tax on a tax return, we need to prorate them. We can't expense 100% of your vehicle that you use for work. There's different different instances where you can or can't, but you'd have to talk to me directly about that. But you want to keep your vehicles separate, especially when you have a personal vehicle and one that's more used for work. You want to put in that. And then if you need another extra category for each vehicle, you would type it in the white box. Please leave the shaded boxes alone, as there's formulas that when you type in this box, they affect here. Next we have our home expenses, where you would put in use of home expenses. Often if you're allowed to have you're allowed to claim use of home expenses if you have an office at your home where you meet with clients. Excuse me, where you meet with clients and where you would do all your office work. You can claim use of home. Again, those are prorated as well. Be careful with your telephone. There's certain special rules on telephone, and I usually put internet in the home area because I find it's probably not ideal to claim 100% of your internet, because generally you use it for personal purposes as well. Drawings are your personal drawings from the business. Anytime you take money out of the business, that's a category you would use for that. And there's assets. Assets are items that you purchased for more than $500. That's my rule of thumb. If you spend something over $500 for the business for long-term viability of the business, you put them in here. So if you bought a building, it'd be a class 1. If you bought furniture and equipment, let's say you use a plumber, so let's say you use a special type of piece of equipment that costs $2,000, you're going to want to put it in class 8. You're not going to want to call it supplies. It's not a supply, it's something they're using for long term. Vehicle, if you bought a new truck, an F-150, that's going to go in class 10. It's not going to go in supplies, or you're not going to put it up in this category here, neither this category here. You're going to want to put it in class 10. Finally, if you have if you have expenses that are not taxable, or they're not business expenses, but they are something you want to track. Usually medical expenses is the one for small business owners that I see the most often. Or let's say HST payments, you would put them in here. You would not they're not an expense. They don't come off your income, and they're not taxable expenses. So anything you want to track in that section. And finally, your payment methods. These are ways you pay for. Let's say you had a TD business account, and you have a CIBC personal account, and you have a Royal Bank business visa. You like to share the love. And let's say you have a BMO personal visa. You want to track them here. This is where you would put them. Okay, that is the settings sheet. That is how the settings sheet is set up, and it has effect on all these other sheets. As you notice, I put in Joe's Plumbing. Watch this. If I go to my income worksheet, look at that. Look at the top there, Joe's Plumbing. It affects all the title reports. Joe's Plumbing, income statement, Joe's Plumbing, and so forth. Joe's Plumbing. Okay, so first we have our income worksheet. So if you were putting in your invoices, you'd put them in here. So let's say is invoice 2019-001. And oops, my apologies. Let's do that. How about we do the date first? So let's say it was January the 2nd, 2019. We'll put our date in. Now, just as a little tip, you want to use the same format in the date with dashes as you have at the bottom of your screen. So right now it's 6 a.m. on January 21st, but you'll see on my computer it has the month, the day, and the year. I like that format myself. Most computers don't have that format. A lot of times they do day, month, year, or they'll do year, month, day. There's a bunch of different possibilities. Excel looks to the way what your computer is defaulted to and will use the same format. So you have to make sure the format of your date down here is the format of your date down here. So let's hit enter. You'll see this is the proper format of a date. Once you put in those dashes, it turns them into slashes, and that is a proper date. Let's say I did it opposite, and I did 31st of January 2019. Do you see how this looks exactly the way I typed it, but this changed as soon as I typed it? Because this is an official Excel date format. This is not. But if I did 1-31-19 in a tab, then it changes to an actual date. So it's very important for sorting reasons that you put in the proper date format when you're putting in dates. Invoice number, let's say 2019-001. Let's say the customer is Fred Penner. And let's say the income category. This is okay. If you forget everything, don't forget this. This is the most important part of the whole spreadsheet. You need to make sure you use the drop-down box. Do not type in plumbing sales or whatever you want. It will mess up the spreadsheet. It will not work properly if you type in amount. I'm going to type in that amount at the bottom here because I'm going to show you in a minute why this is not proper. Instead, you want to pick from the category and select that. Then move on. So let's say we put that into the TD business account, and let's say it was $1,000 sale, and it was $130 charged in HST. But let's say there was a second invoice, and that was on the 5th of 2019, and let's say it's it's his friend Joe Blow, and he deposited that into the business account, and that sale was $500 plus $65 in HST. Now, just we have product sales from our drop-down list, and we have plumbing sales that we typed in. I'm going to show you why this is bad to type in your own amount. When we go to our report, you'll notice there's product sales. It picked up the 1,000, but there's no plumbing sales. See, there's just the categories that we have from our settings sheet. And you'll see income. If I change this to, say service sales, then I go back to my income statement. There we go, product sales, service sales, and now it picks up the $500. It's a huge mistake to type in your own category. So don't type in your own category. It's very, 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 I can't stress it enough. Please don't do that. I usually do a quick review and I scan stuff, but if you type it in wrong and I miss it, it's on you, it's not on me. And that's income worksheet. Now, you'll notice that some months have more rows than others. If you need to add a row, there's this button here. It says add new row. Remember that yellow bar that popped up in the top earlier? When we hit OK and authorize, that allows this button to work. The button will not work unless if you have that yellow bar at the top, because you need to make macros need to be authorized. So let's watch this. If I click on the yellow area, and look at that. See, I can add new rows. You have to be really careful. Click on a yellow area. Don't click on a gray area or a blue area. See, like it adds wherever you add it. It adds. So be really careful. We don't want to do that. Or here, you'll get the spreadsheet will start to look really ugly if you keep doing that. And here, see, I made it look ugly now. There we go. We don't want that. I even have a little warning here. Note, if you run out of lines, click on a blank row, then click and add the Add New Row button to add more. And you can do that anywhere in the spreadsheet. It's very handy. That is the income worksheet. Now let's go to the expense worksheet. Invoice date. So let's say on the 5th of 2019, Joe went to Staples and he bought some staples and some office supplies. And he paid by debit. Excuse me. Now you notice he ran out of room here. If you click in between the D&E and you just stretch it out, or you double click, it will stretch to as long as the word is. Payment method, let's say he used his Royal Bank Business Visa. Let's stretch that out. And expense category. So again, if you remember anything, just remember this. Please use the drop-down box. Do not type in your own categories. If you do want your own categories, you need to go to the settings sheet and add a category. That is the proper way to do it. Please do not just type in categories. I see people every year, I see people do that, and I have to fix it, and it adds more time to their bill. But not only that, it makes the possibility for a mistake much higher. We do not like to make mistakes here. So please do not use the drop-down box. Use the drop-down box. Last time saying it. Okay, gross amount. Let's say he spent $56.50, and of that, $6.50 was HST. You'll notice that this is the opposite format as the income worksheet. On the income, we take the base amount, subtotal, and add the HST. And the expense, we take the total and subtract out the HST. Again, anything's yellow we can type in. If there's a colored box other than yellow, don't type in those boxes, please. But you'll notice that this column here took the gross minus the HST and gave us the net. Let's say on the 6th, Joe went to Esso and he got some gas for his car, and let's say used debit, actually, credit. There we go. Sorry, I shouldn't have said credit. And uses Visa again, and went and got some gas for his F-150 that he uses 90% of the time for business, and spent $100 on his gas. Here's a little little tip. If I want to find the HST in that $100, I know it's $100 gas, I know there's HST in it, I use this formula, equals this cell, so the $100 divided by 1.13 times 0.13. So that formula says $100, it reduces, by dividing by 1.13, it reduces the amount before charging HST, and then adds the HST back by multiplying by 0.13. And that gives me $11.50 is how much HST is in $100, and it'll tell me that my base expense for the gas, I really spent $88.50 on gas, and then I spent $11.50 on HST. So that's that formula, if you ever need that. Try not to use it too much. It's best to take the HST that's actually on the receipt, because that is the official amount that you can claim. Sometimes when you're dealing with meals, the amount of HST is going to be less than the formula, so you can't use this formula for meals and some other types of expenses, but the majority of other expenses you can. So be careful with that. You can get yourself in trouble if you use it too much. Okay, so we've now seen the settings sheet, income worksheet, and expense sheet, and we put in our information. Let's see what the reports we get out. So on the income statement, let's see it picked up product sales, service sales, so we have our total revenue, adds up. Then it picked up the fact that we spent $50 in office supplies. We have a net income for January of $14.50. And if we scroll down, I just realized I had the F-150 hidden. That's one of the handy things with the spreadsheet. You can hide rows. There we go. There's $88.50 that we spent in fuel. And there's use of home area. So as we start adding categories in here, let's say it spent mortgage interest, and it was $1,000. You'll see the income there, it picks it up. There you go. Now you'll notice I have different sections. The top section is 100% expenses, and the rest are prorated. There's the vehicle expenses. They're separated because they're treated separately on the tax return, in use of home, and asset. That is the income statement report, and we use these to prepare your income taxes. Now there's a HST report by quarterly. It picks up how much HST was charged in each month, how much HST was paid, the gross sales of the month, or the quarter I should say, and then it'll figure out the HST. So it'll say Joe collected $195, he paid $18, and owes the government $177 in HST for the first quarter. If Joe's an annual HST filer, he can do the same thing, but annually. This will add up all four together. That is my spreadsheet. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you like using it, and happy tax season. Thank you.